It looks like Matt Riddle will be returning to the ring for the first time following his WWE release just a few months ago. I'm going to let you know when we'll see him, where it's going to be, how it could happen. Before I do, though, I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Okay, Matt Riddle, of course, was released following a series of incidents that occurred between himself and WWE, or during his time, I should say, in WWE. And we have been waiting to see what would happen, where he would wind up. And it looks like we got an answer. It was announced today that at MLW Imitation Game 2024, this is on February 29th at the Melrose Ballroom in New York City, Matt Riddle will make his return in-ring action, which is big news for fans of the former UFC, former WWE superstar, and now it looks like MLW wrestler. Now, of course, Matt Riddle's time in the ring and in UFC and basically his entire career has not been without controversy, both for frivolous reasons and very serious reasons. Of course, there are allegations that are still outstanding, I should say, against him. You also have the fact of how things ended. Riddle went to rehab. He came back, and he was looking to be good. Everything seemed to be fine. And then there was an incident at JFK International Airport where he made some very serious allegations himself against airport security. And not long after that, he was released. So, of course, there's a lot in as far as, you know, the controversy of Matt Riddle that is still to be determined. But what I will say is that, you know, from an in-ring standpoint, if you're MLW, like, this is a move that makes sense. Of course, again, ethically, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to sign Matt Riddle. That's why I think a company like AEW hasn't, you know, or didn't make a big move or hasn't made a big splash on trying to sign Matt Riddle right away, because of those controversies and because of the very serious allegations that are against him and the way that things ended in WWE. Just, it's one of those things where like, I feel like AEW is in a situation where, you know, they have been in the news so much for backstage drama, for controversies, all that kind of stuff, and adding Matt Riddle would just seem to be like a powder keg of future controversies that could just be waiting to burst. So I understand why maybe the AEW team there was maybe didn't want to sign him right away. And that's why I could see him not signing with a major company. I don't think he'll go back to WWE either. I like, of course, a few years from now, don't rule anything out. Never say never. It's professional wrestling. But I think that, you know, as great as Matt Riddle is in the ring, and he's great, and he was a great MMA fighter. Like, all of those things are true. As great as he is in the ring, the truth is you are only as great as your biggest weakness outside of the ring. And Matt Riddle, I think, Matt Riddle has been at the center, I should say, of much controversy. And I think, you know, the fact that he's able to wrestle in MLW at this point is a bit of a blessing for him. And I think that, you know, the product in the ring is going to be great because, look, like I said before, Matt Riddle is a great wrestler. That should not take anything away from, you know, like like I'm not trying to take anything away from his in-ring ability. It's no question, but at the same time, you can't ignore the very serious problems that have plagued him throughout his entire career, even going back to MMA. And I grant this, the MMA issues were less of an issue because those are more to do with like recreational drugs and UFC at the time being very anti, you know, marijuana, which, like, if you know Riddle and you've kept up with the image, even in WWE, they adopted that as part of his whole thing. But I do think that, man, it is It's like here's the thing. Here's the thing. People like think, oh, there's these people who are trying to like, drag Matt Riddle through the mud or whatever. Like, no, I don't need to drag Matt Riddle through the mud. I think, you know, the reputation that he allegedly has done that enough, more than I ever could. And, you know, I think that the other side of that is I'm not saying anything that isn't public knowledge. I'm not saying anything that isn't, already known. You can look this up, you can Google it, you can do a lot of stuff. What I will tell you is I find it very hard to believe that a major wrestling promotion, no disrespect to MLW, they have some great talent, they put on some great shows, but they're not a major wrestling promotion even in just North America. They're like probably what, the fifth biggest wrestling company in America at this point? And I don't know how much that says. And I don't even think they're like the fifth most popular. I think like you could argue that there's like indie promotions at this point that are way more popular than MLW. I'd argue MCW is more popular than MLW at this point. But look for Riddle to probably do a stint around the indies. I'm sure he's going to get paid good money to work the indies. Like, he is still a big name. He's going to be a draw. But I think Riddle does have a future as an indie star. Impact would be the company. If there's a company out there that we want to say major, TNA is going to be the company. There's reports that TNA had, made budgeted out some money for a potential big time free agent signing. I think Matt Riddle has the potential to be that free agent signing, just because out of like all the names that are coming up, you have Ali, you have, of course, the former Dolph Ziggler, you have, Elias for whatever it's worth, and then you have Riddle, right? As far as the big major free agent signings from this batch that of releases that are now able to sign elsewhere. I think that, TNA, I think Matt Riddle could do well in TNA. I think that having Riddle on your roster could help elevate TNA as far as, having someone who is that credible and a big name. But the question is to what end, right? Is he going to win the world title? Is he going to be their big star? How much is that actually going to break through? And like, what's the goal there? I think that's to be determined. It's also to be determined what TNA is going to be, because there's a lot of talk about, like nostalgia. There's a lot of talk about, going back to what TNA was about. And like, I don't think we've honed in yet on what TNA actually was about, but I guess we'll see. But Riddle is showing up. We know Mustafa Ali had already announced a bunch of dates. He's going crazy on the indie scene. We, of course, have the former Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, already announcing some dates as well. Maybe he'll be someone to keep an eye on as far as an AEW run as well. So a lot of stuff happening. This latest batch of releases are now able to sign, as I mentioned earlier. I want to hear from y'all. What do you think is in the future for Matt Riddle? What do you think is in the future for anyone from these previous batch of releases? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.